All right, welcome. We're going to begin our chapter 5, mobile devices, or designing for mobile devices. This is where we learn about how to do fluidity and quite a big part of the responsive web design, which is the ability to modify from one type of viewpoint to the other. And one of the main things is that we don't really want to design a website just for desktop sites, and then another one just for mobile devices like iPads or phones or and whatnot. We want to build one device that is able to respond to either viewport, and that starts with our meta tag. But let's take a run through the PowerPoint real quick. We're gonna take a quick breezy run through it, and then we're gonna get into the meat of it with our lab one, where we'll spend the majority of our time. We've got our objectives, some of the principles of responsive. I just kind of talked about that, the pros and cons of a mobile. We touched on that just a little bit. But the mobile first strategy is the idea that we should design for mobile initially. And there's even, if you're on a desktop site, you can even tell it to specifically show it as a desktop from the user perspective as well. So that's definitely a valid way of going, is to design it mobile first, and then the desktop, the user can just turn off the mobile portion of it if they wish. And then a part of that is, hey, what is the viewport, and looking at how to look at it. Look at your website rendered on different types of devices within the browser as a test or a test. And then of course we're going to have some CSS declarations, such as the way the fonts should be able to be resized, because we don't want to go with anything that in our CSS that says fixed. We always want it to be relative, because we want it to be able to respond to the viewport it has and grow or shrink as needed, and that includes your font. So we're going to be using that mobile simulator, and then we've got we're going to talk about the hamburger icon and a little bit on the sticky element. We'll finish up with some rounded corners. We might not touch too heavily on that, but we'll definitely be dealing with the CSS part of it, which is the pseudo class, and then the custom fonts. Yeah, that's kind of a good thing to have, so we'll play with that. So the idea here is to minimize the pain of a mobile viewer, and that goes to accessibility, because a lot of people will be on the go, and there's a whole generation of individuals out there that just do everything on their phone. And then not only that, but there are people out there that don't have computers. The only thing they have is the contracts that come with their phone. It's kind of like they're all in one thing, and that's what they're able to afford. So it's not only about accessibility, but it also goes towards affordability. And the more people that are able to access your website because they don't have a computer, the more accessible you have, the more customers you're going to drive towards your website to use it. So we're going to start with a meta viewport element, and then we're going to look at how that actually behaves and is able to view it within the browser for testing without having to bring out our phone, and so that we can do it all within our development environment. So the idea is, make it easy to read on multiple different types of devices for tablets, the desktop, and a phone. And part of that is modifying your HTML and your CSS. And this is kind of just a screenshot showing an example of how well we can get it to look on each different device type. So that's the idea of what we call as a fluid layout, and that is the ability to size different things of the web page. That includes the images, the text, anything that's on the web page, that's an element on the web page should be able to resize depending on the viewport that you're working on. And that does make things a little bit more difficult from a developer standpoint, because the CSS becomes a little bit, instead of what I would call hard coding font size to size 12 or size 8, you would have to set the font size to be something that could resize itself depending on screen orientation and the viewport. So it's also orientation of the screen that allows it to be responsive and accessible. And that, of course, is with your flexible images, so that you have relative images of your CSS rules, and so that they can shrink and grow along with your fonts and your nav bar. Some rules for your nav bar that you would want to behave a little bit differently. There's some things that you would even want to hide from a mobile web a mobile viewer than a desktop viewer. So part of that is, hey, how do we get started with that? And that's going to be one of our meta tags that we begin with. So let's go ahead and skip a little bit to where it discusses that, because this is kind of talking about the same thing about making sure things can have a fluid layout instead of fixed measurements. So this goes into, this probably might actually help you if I do that. Excuse me. The fixed width or height of fonts are something that we don't want. And they use the term fluid layout so that the viewport is able to be resized. And that is with the fonts and the images. And not only that, but your nav bar, your menu systems. So one of the things on that is when you go to working within the mobile portion of your CSS and HTML, you're going to want to show your web page in a kind of more of a single column type of layout, instead of having like a left and a right pane, a top and a bottom, a header and a footer. Your book kind of gives you an idea. Here's kind of an example. Instead of having this left and right side, you have just one column that you are able to scroll through, and that's the idea of a phone, is the scrolling type culture. And that is a big culture. I mean, hey, I just started using, I became a TikTok fiend, and it is what it is, and I'm just this scrolling person now. I don't even watch TV anymore. I just sit and put this TV on and scroll, and it's like, it's almost instant gratification. But the idea is using all of the screen space within that mobile viewport, and how do we go about doing that? And not only that, but hey, let's do it so that we only have to develop this whole web page once, so that it can be viewed on all three different viewports, desktop, tablet, or phone. And so if you build it so that it works on the most restrictive one, which is a mobile, which is the phone, you're going to be taking care of the most restrictive part of it, and then you'll be able to kind of finesse it along the way to handle for the other viewports. So let's go ahead, and I'm kind of just going through here because a lot of this stuff is just, you know, the same thing over and over and over. And I want to get into Lab 1 here soon, but here's one thing that they talk about with the navigation system is often what you'll find is the nav bars will take up a lot of space. So one of the things that you see now is this hamburger button that's used for a nav bar instead. So that is another aspect of mobile development, is the implementation of that sort of behavior. And then well, here's a little bit about using border radius, but you know, or corner radius. We'll get into that a little bit more when we play with Lab 1. And here's an example of using a single column layout instead of a multiple column layout for mobile viewports. So that's where we get into when we're developing. We're going to have a mobile friendly. We're going to be able to test it, and that's one of the first things that we'll, as we get into Lab 1, that we'll kind of get into. So, without further ado, I think we've kind of given you kind of the brush through without any clear, concrete details, which is what Lab 1 is about. So, and then of course your chapter work that you're going to complete. So let's go ahead and add some, let's get into Lab 1 here. I'm going to take a moderate segue break and come back to you guys here. I'm going to go ahead and get to Lab 1. You should have already gone through your chapter work, and now we're going to go ahead and reinforce what you did in your chapter by completing Lab 1 and discussing it. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue on from the last time. And I did post the Chapter 4 website in the Chapter 4 assignment area for you. So if you're following along with me on some of that, and for your Lab 1, you can use some of that code. But we're going to go ahead and begin here shortly with Lab 1. So I'll see you guys soon. Okay, we're back. Let's go ahead and get started on this. What I'm going to go ahead and do is the website that I've been working on that pretty much follows Lab 1. It looks like it's the folder here that I called My Website. You guys should have kind of this sort of folder. What we're going to do is we're going to do a few things. First, we're going to modify. The first step is to put the meta element, or the meta declaration in. And what that is it just says to the web browser that this is a relative web page, meaning that it can be sized. It can be, the size can change, and it tells the browser. And it also set up, essentially it tells the browser that this is a non-fixed web page. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, let's go ahead and start with our index here. And our index here, that's kind of what we're working with. And I'm going to bring up my text editor, and I'm going to say open with my text editor, Visual Studio Code. You guys might be using Notepad or Notepad++, which is totally fine. I just like this because it does autocomplete for you and stuff like that. So eventually you're going to want to decide on on a different, something better than your what you're currently using. Okay, now let's set this up so that when we hit play over here, it will just show up for us. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is, now that I've got that kind of going, where it's nice and easy, now what we're going to do is we're going to go here to more tools. So notice here I went up to these three, the three dots, the ellipse, and then I'm going to go to more tools, and we're going to go to developer tools. Now what this is going to do, oh, that was task manager. We don't want that. This is going to allow us to look at it in the different viewing ports. So we can do here is, I'm going to have to actually find where this is. Oh, right there. So we can look at the sources of, you know, what is actually being drawn here. This is the stuff that we would put into our code. Let's go ahead and maximize that, and let's zoom in on this a little bit. This is just the code that we have in our text editor. Now over here, it looks like it's got toggle device toolbar. So let's go ahead and hit that, and it looks like we can choose. I just hit toggle device toolbar, and it looks like it then toggled the responsive device toolbar. And then not only that, but here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing about it, is we can choose what device. So this would be a Samsung device. This would be an iPad. This would be we're gonna go with Samsung, because that's what I have, is a Samsung. And so again, the steps for that were to go over here to the ellipse, more tools, developer tools, and then over here toggle device toolbar, and basically it just says, hey, draw this website as a mobile device. Now it's not going to behave appropriately yet because we haven't put our meta tag in. Now let's see if this stuff, here's something, a little trick that we can do so that we don't have to always be hitting play all the time. What we can do is we can make a change here, and we can just, you know, like here's a change in the index. I'm just going to put in change here. I'm going to do a Control-S to save it. Then I'm going to go back to the web page, and I'm going to do a reload, and you see it says change down here. That way we don't have to keep going and hitting play and going through the menu options anymore. We can just go up, do the reload, and what the reload will do is it'll reload and redraw the web page with the change that we added in the text editor. So you see there's the change there. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. Okay, and then I'm going to do Control-S again, which is save, file save. And then I'm going to go back here and hit reload. And you'll see the change is gone now. So this is showing our code, which we don't really need to worry about here. So this stuff is not, we're you know, if we have any bad code, it will show up as errors over here. So this is a way of checking your errors that you have, is to bring it up in this mode and view the code that you're actually looking that the browser is actually drawing to you. But what we're going to do is we could go in here and start typing, but the thing is we would have to save it by doing a Control-S from Chrome. But that means, yes, you can develop in Chrome the web page, but it's kind of a stinker, so I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend just going back and forth between the two. So you edit here, and then you would go over here and reload it or refresh it. So let's see here. We're going to add that meta tag here, and what I want to do is is I'm going to want to zoom in here for you so that we have, I want to zoom in on this so that you guys aren't squinting too hard. I think, let me do one out. I think that you should be able to handle that. So this is going to be index, and you know what we're going to do is I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to open them all. I'm going to say open with Visual Studio Code, and so then I'm going to be able to tab between the pages so that I can edit them, and then when I get done changing them, I'm going to do a save all, because you want to make sure that if you're editing multiple files that you save all the files that you've changed. Okay, so I have these ones opened. I'm going to say here, open with Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open up this one. And you know what? I should be able to just do Shift, select them all, right click, and say open with. Oh, that actually should work. There we go. Okay, we got them all opened. So I've opened up all my web pages. My template is the main thing that I'm going to always keep changing first. And then I'll duplicate the changes for my other web pages. So let's go ahead and modify and do step number 1 and adding the meta name content. And what we're going to do here is in the meta tag, we still want the UTF I think we could just add a whole nother one. But this is step 1 here. So we're going to declare the viewport to be non-fixed, meaning relative, so that things can resize. So basically, you then know, hey, what is the width, and you know, basically we're telling it that this is a resizable web page. Okay, and then we got to close that addition. All right, now I'm going to look at my syntax there. Device dash width, comma, initial scale, 1.0. Everything's in double quotes for the content. And then we close it. Okay. Let's go ahead and take this, and what we're going to do is let's do a save all. Let's go ahead and hit run and debug. This is the template, and more tools, developer tools, and it comes back to our Samsung Galaxy thing. Okay, so how does this change from the way it was before? Let's take this out. Do another Control S. Then let's go back to here and let's reload it. Okay, so you see that there was a major change there, because what's the problem here initially? Well, if we go back and we say we toggle this off, Let's go here. Let's make it back to the phone. We toggle this off. You see how the nav bar is stretched out to here? But as soon as we toggled back to, or when we had it, it was cutting it off. So we're going to go ahead and add that in again so it behaves more appropriately. I'm going to do Control S. And let's do a refresh. And you see how it's kind of bigger and it just changes the behavior a little bit. Okay, so that did make a change. It made it so that it's easier to read on we're using more of the space of our screen. And it's showing more, you know, the larger and more of the actual nav bar here. So let's go ahead and copy that. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this line. Now, you know, now we know that it's active and it's working. We're going to go over here and we're going to embed it in all our web pages. Control S, save it as you go, or do a save all when you're done. So I'm not even doing save. I'm going to go do a save all when I'm done. You can only, you know, make sure that you save each one if you're in like Notepad or something. But I'm going to go ahead and add it to all my web pages. And I'm going to go File, Save All. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go to Home, Lessons, Contact Us. Okay, so we've got some issues here, obviously. And you know, it looks like, you know, hey, we've got some behaviors. It's showing all of our links instead of cutting them off like it was. But when we go back to the mobile, it's no longer cutting our links off. But we've got other problems that we've got to fix for our links. So let's continue on to number 2, and that is going to be adding some CSS. And we're going to be adding a CSS element for the music note entity codes. It looks like we're going to update the heading 1 element, and we're going to wrap the music note entity codes within a span element. Okay, so I don't think that we used a music note code in the head, but I think let's go ahead and do that. We'll just have a music note in our thing. So let's just go ahead and do that. That's going to be in the header. So we can put a different code in there if we want, just for fun. But I'll just go ahead and add in let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to step 2. And I believe we're going to want this for the header. Let's see here. No, the heading 1 element. You know what? I'm going to take a quick pause and come right back to you. Make sure that I'm giving you the right instructions. We're probably going to be pausing quite a bit in this video as we kind of trudge through these instructions. So yeah, it is what it is. I'll be back shortly. Okay, so yeah, I skipped a step in one of the previous you know previous steps, and it was to add a heading before the or in the nav bar, it looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to add it right here. You know, I think it's actually going to be in the header. Copy and paste the heading 1 element. And the heading 1 element is from back before that we had to add. I believe it looks like, yeah, it's in the header. So right here, let's go ahead and add in that. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have an H1. And this would be like strike a chord that we skipped. And if we look at it, let's go ahead and just look at it in the index. See right there, strike a chord. And then we would have music notes here before and after. So let's just go ahead and add that in as intended. So now what we would have is we would have the ampersand pound 9836 semicolon, and that's going to be for a music note. So let's go ahead and look at that. There's our music note. And then we would have the same thing on the other side. And that's what was intended to be shown. Is that. So what we're going to do now is this is going to be, I'm going to modify this. Instead of strike a chord, I'm going to make this border collies. And then I actually liked a different, the Wild Rescues code a little bit more, which is some paw prints. So instead of the Wild Rescues, we're going to go with a different. Go with a different code, or instead of the strike a chord musical note code for like an icon or ASCII code character. We're going to do an ampersand pound, and it looks like it's 128. You guys will do the other one. 062 semicolon. All right. There's my paw prints. Beautiful. And you know what? Let's do it on both sides just for fun. And then what we'll do is, there we go. We got that. And you know, we can actually look at it. We'll do the developer option here soon. Now let's actually do number 2, which is what, you know, the next step. And then we will copy it across all the pages now that we've got that step done right and correctly. Let's see here. Going back to the instructions for lab 1. Now we have the span class. Okay, so we're going to embed, if I can, you know, decode, copy and paste the revised heading 1. Okay, so it says update the heading 1 element by wrapping both music note entity codes within a span element. So we're gonna put the codes inside of a span element. And what this is gonna do is it's going to give instructions on how these musical notes should actually be drawn. So a span element, we're just giving a name to it. So we're giving it a class name so that we can modify these tags using CSS. And what I'm going to do here is we're going to give it a name tab-desk. And what that's going to do is it's going to be allow us to apply some CSS rules. Now, since I'm going to be wrapping it in, I want to put it inside of the span. And there's my autocomplete kind of working. So this will be given this ID so that we can tell the browser how to draw these specific icons within a modified viewport. Okay, now then I should have that ready to kind of look at. There's that. Now we're not going to see much of a change because we haven't added the CSS yet to it. But you see that we've kind of got some issues already that it's caused because of the behaviors that we have not set yet. So let's go ahead and continue on. I believe we've got that instruction set working well, and we will come back to that shortly. So let's go on to step 3, because we're going to have some style rules that we're going to be modifying. So let's go ahead and refresh this and get into this guy. And this guy is we're going to copy this header into all our header stuff. Now you notice I'm doing this before or after the style sheet, and there's a reason for that. I don't want to do this before the style sheet because the style sheet is going to be used to declare how that span is going to look. And we might need to modify some of this to make it behave properly. I'm pretty sure I did it correctly, but we'll get to there when we get to the instructions for modifying the CSS. So it needs to be after you have the CSS code in there, because the CSS code, the styles.css, is telling the web browser how to draw this tab desk element that we've declared that includes this particular musical note. And then I'm going to just add that into all of those, and we're going to go on to the next step. Okay, now I'm going to go to File, Save All, so that it changed everything. And now we're on to step 3. So it looks like we're going to be adding a class attribute with the value of tab desk to the div ID that is hero. And that's going to be this guy right here. So that means that it's going to have this class attribute so that we can actually apply CSS rules to it using that class name. So I'm going to say here class equals tab-desk. And I think what we're going to do is copy this into all of them. So we put the div ID, we call it the hero element, and it's going to have this class attribute. So let's just go ahead and copy that whole line, and we will paste it over everything. So I'm just going to go in here, paste it over. Let's make it nice and pretty so it lines up appropriately. Paste it over this guy. Make it nice and pretty. Paste it over this guy. Make it nice and pretty. Next file. Paste it over this guy. And this is all just to be able to add some CSS rules to it. Okay, and then I'm going to do this guy right here. And the CSS rules are going to be applied to the image. And that's just so that we can add that rule. So the same CSS rules for this heading, for this image icon, are going to be applied to this image inside of here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to say that those images are going to be resized relative to the screen size. So it's no longer going to have a fixed width and height depending on the image size. The image and the icon sizes are going to be relative to the size of your viewing screen. And again, we haven't added the CSS rules yet for that, so we won't be able to see any change in any of these, the behaviors of this stuff. Which is why when we look at it, it's going to look kind of funky. It's going to be looking fine here, but as soon as we go to developer tools, we're not going to have very good behaviors that we can see for our images yet that we have posted. Okay, let's go ahead and I believe we're on step 5, and we're going to insert 2 blank lines below the new comment and add another comment with the following text. You know what? That is going to be in the style rule. So we're going to go in, and this is where we're going to be setting the style rule so that it's relative, essentially. So instead of being a specific display style for those images, we're going to modify the way that those images are displayed. So let's go ahead and get into our CSS file, and we're going to add 2 comments for that. Let's go back here, and I'm going to go into my folder, and I'm going to go into the CSS, and I'm going to say open with Visual Studio Code. You're going to use Notepad or whatever, and I'm going to add these or that specific CSS for the tab-desk class. So beginning with a comment, and if I remember right, a CSS comment. And what we can do is let's just do a quick Google search for a CSS comment. CSS comment, because you know this is stuff that we always forget. But it looks like we just use an open, we use a backslash and an asterisk, and then we close it with another asterisk and a backslash. So let's go ahead and put in our comment, and then what we're going to have is a comment here that says style rules for mobile viewport. And then we add another one that says this is for hide tab desk class. Okay, and then we're going to add the CSS. And the way that we access or we grab a hold of that class is just like here, where this is for an ID, to grab a hold of an ID when we set the ID of an element. We're going to use the class name with the dot in front of it, and it's going to be tab-desk. And then this is going to be the start of the rules. And inside of them, we're just going to say, and this is for images, we're going to say display is none. Okay, file, save all. Now there's different kinds of display. There's inline display, relative display. In this case, we're saying hide these elements. Don't show them when we're, and we should see a change within the web page when we look at it. And let's just look at the behavior. Now that we've added that CSS where we say don't display it, and let's look at what happens. So I'm gonna hit stop here. Stop is being a stinker. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, look at some different changes there. I'm not really quite caring for the behavior right now because we're not actually seeing that as a mobile device just yet, but we may need to add some more. But you see here that the image is no longer being displayed. Looks like that one is being displayed, which is fine. But when we go home, that's our index. And if we look at our index, we have inside of our index, I'm looking at index.htm right here, we have this banner image. And since we said not to display it, it's not showing it. Now I think that we've got to have a mechanism to show it when we're not in a mobile viewport coming up eventually. So we're moving on, and that's why when we're looking at the index, we no longer see the pause up here or the image, is because we've set that display none in the CSS rules. Okay guys, I think this is a good breakpoint for now. I'm gonna go ahead and come back to you shortly. We've got a full 21 odd steps to take here for this website. We've just got started on it. I'll see you guys shortly. Okay, we're going to add another little small modification. One thing that I noticed in your book was that it had a few changes, or some changes in some of the way some of the code was done, and they put a lot of the meta in the meta after the link. So this right here, we've got to change a few things around to be a little bit more from the way your book has it. And in the head is where we need to actually have your style sheet inclusion. So we're going to make a modification here based on this linking of your style sheet. That we're going to cut out from the header, and it's still going to work, but I want to go a little bit more from the way that your book has things. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and put it after the UTF right here. So that's what your book has. And we're going to go ahead and modify that so that it's across everything. So that you're including your link inside of your actual head instead of your header. So that's another little fix that we have to do. And then we can get into your the steps where we're actually modifying or getting the I'm going to go ahead and do a save all now that we've got that little bit of modification done. So we got our title the way we should have it. And I think what we want to do is I want to take this title, and this is going to be Border Collies. And I'm going to go ahead and modify that across here as well. Just a few little updates, along with moving that CSS inclusion link, just so that our titles are copacetic. Okay, save all. All right, now we're going to be ready to get into the dictionary, or not the dictionary, but the font. So we're going to go ahead and go to Google and go to fonts.google.com and follow the instructions for getting a font that is customized. So I'm going to go into fonts.google.com. Okay, so we're going to search for a font, and it looks like we're going to search for DM Serif Display Font. DM Serif Display Font. Okay, it looks like, here we go. And once we have that, we'll select the font. Okay, and then we're going to set it. We're not going to do a get. I think what we need to do is set it here down. Right here it says to go italic with it. And we want the italic version. And then we want to, we've set the style. We selected the font. Now we search for and select the Roboto font. Search for and select the Roboto font. Okay. All right. Now we're going to grab it. I guess we're going to use the Roboto font. Select it. And let's go with regular 400 italic. Maybe. Okay. And I guess we'll just say get font. Copy embed code. Okay, there we go. I think that's what we're going to use. So we need to use these links within our web page. And we're going to add these links looks like we just need the link href. you know what? Maybe let's just grab all of it. And we're going to go to our head. And so I just did copy code here so that we copy all this. Now I'm going to go to our head, and for each page, starting with our index, I'm going to put that into our head. So there's our first. Let's make it pretty. And you know what? I'm going to select this again so that it copies well, and we can paste it fairly easily in each page. So I'm going to go to the next one. Paste. There, that's nice. Paste. 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 Okay, and I'm going to go File, Save All. Okay, let's go ahead and just view it. I don't think. Yeah, I think we're ready to move on to the next step. We've got the font link in there for step 8, but you know what? I skipped over step 7. So let's go back to step 7, and we've got to go into the header style rule by changing the font size value to 1.5 EM. This is where we actually change it so that it is relative. Now you notice here that we've got 3 EM. We don't want PX, 3PX. This is a fixed set, so we don't want fixed when we're dealing with responsive web and fluid designs. We want either EM or percentages of the screen size. So EM means that the size resizes based on the initial font size setting of the web page. And so then it grows and increases with the size of the screen. So they want us to change this to 1.5 EM, and that's step 7. And we only need to change it in this one area for all our headers. And now we're on to. We've got the Roboto value that we're using. Now we need to add the font family decoration because we added the link element provided by Google Fonts within the head element for all the web pages. But now we got to go in and into our styles and add the font family decoration for the it looks like we want to use the DM serif display to your style rule for header 1. I think we need to actually add the DM serif display italic to our link as well. So let's go back to that font area and let's do another search for DM serif display. And we want this one. Oh, you know what? There we go. Now let's get the font. Get embedded code. Oh no, it's part of it. Okay, that's part of the RoboCo. So I guess it looks like we just need to throw in these CSS links. So Remove the font style declaration and italic value from the header 1 style rule. Change the font family value for the main styling rule to use the Roboto value provided by the Google Fonts. Okay, so you know what? Change the font value for the main style rule to use the Roboto value. Okay. All right. Let's go into the style sheets and add the font family. And it looks like all these are going to be used, but this is the code that we want. And we're going to add that to, we want the Roboto font family. It looks like for the main style rule. So let's do that. The font family Roboto. So I'm just going to copy that, and we're going to go into our style view, and let's go to our main. And it looks like main is here, but there should be a main all on its own. Here's the main all on its own. So instead of this guy, instead of this font family, we want this font family. Okay, and then for the other part, which is going to be the DM serif display, that's going to be in the header. So that one should be kind of the same code. So we're going to go to the header. And we don't want H1, we want header. And let's do this. It's still a sans serif, but it's going to be DM serif. I think we might need display in there. We'll find out when we evaluate that. In fact, let's just go ahead and do a Control S and run it and see if we have any problems. Looks like, oh, I used the wrong thing. So let's do this. Okay, so it looks like we're good. Okay, so that is for changing the header font family or font style. It's still in the sans serif family. And then we changed the main to Roboto of the sans serif family. Okay, now we're going to be on step 9. And we're going to go back into our style CSS, and we're going to go into our UL selector, our unordered list selection. So we're looking for UL. So we got a nav UL. Do we have just UL? Doesn't look like. Do we need to add the UL or just modify? Add the UL selector. Add the UL selector to the CSS reset style rule. Remove the declaration for the margin property in the nav UL style rule. You know what? Add the UL selector to the CSS reset style rule. So let's go up here, and let's take a quick pause point. Excuse me. I want to make sure that I'm following along with this correctly, and look back into your book here shortly. And so I'll be right back. Okay. Now from your book, we are on step 9. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the reset style rule. And that, if you remember, was one of the first ones we added, and that is to reset all the styling in the page. And what it wants us to do is add a UL tag here. And so we're just going to put UL at the end. And then it asks us to modify or add, remove the declaration for margin in the nav UL style rule. So let's go to the nav UL style rule, and let's remove this margin. And then modify the nav list item style rule by changing it to display block. And what display block means is to show it in the full width of the list item and using the full width of the screen. So that's part of the, making it, one column in the viewport for like a phone. So we're going to go to the list item, and instead of doing inline, we're going to do, I believe we want to do this for the nav li style rule. Instead of display inline block, we want display block, so it goes across the whole screen. And what that's going to do is make it so that it takes up, so it's more of a column in the viewport for that particular list item element. In other words, it's not going to be on the left or the right. We're modifying the viewport so that it shows columns from top down. And then we are going to add the following declaration to the nav list item. So we're going to go right here, and we're going to say border dash top 1px solid, and then we're going to give it a color so that it's a white border across the top of that particular nav list item. So what we should have now is list items that are going across in a column across the whole screen. So if we look at it, let's save this, file save, and we should see that our nav, since these are list items, we should see a behavior change. And you see the change, home, lessons, it's all the way across the screen now. We still haven't gotten it differentiating between a desktop site and a regular site. So there's another thing that you can go in here, more tools. There's you can have a view as desktop, I believe, in here somewhere that you can actually set. I don't know, is it? No, it's not in developer tools, but we're getting there, guys. We're moving along. Okay, so we're on step. We did step 9. We just got that done. And now we are on to step 10. We're going to change the action, the style rule for an action. Now let's go to the class action setting right here. And what we want is we want that to be 1.25 EM. And that's for anything that we assign that class to in the web page. Okay, so we want to remove width and float declarations from, it looks like piano, guitar, violin style rule. Since I'm still using these rules in my web page, so let's go ahead and it looks like we need to add these guys into, and I'm gonna go ahead and look back in the book, and we'll add those in so that we can view that for this actual implementation. But we're going to modify that, and then I will add in those things here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment, and then I will be looking at how those are used here shortly. We'll do a quick pause again. So we're going to go ahead and remove the width and float declarations for this rule. Okay, so that's this guy right here. Okay, that is step 11. Okay, let's continue on to 12. And then I'll take a quick break and make sure that I don't have any other things that I need to add into the web pages. So we're going to look at the ID info style rule, the pound sign, and we're going to do a new style rule for the unlisted or unordered list selector that specifies a left margin of 10%. So let's go into info, and it's going to be an info UL selector. Do we have an info UL selector? Nope. We just got our info. So let's look at this. Below the info style, create a new style rule for the info UL selector that specifies. Oh, below it, we're going to create a new one that's an info UL selector that specifies. Okay. So what we're going to do here is let's just copy this guy. Okay, and then it's going to be UL. So it's going to be the UL, any UL element inside of the info div tag or wherever that info tag will be at. And what we want is we want a left margin. So that one, a left margin, of 10%. I think we just do margin left, margin dash left, I believe. Let's go ahead and just Google that. Let's do margin, let's do CSS margin left. Yeah, margin dash left. Okay, so it's going to be margin left 10%. So let's go ahead and put that in. So we're going to type in margin dash left 10%. Okay, so that's going to put a 10% space on the left margin of a unordered list item inside of the info tag. Okay, let's see if we can go on. I'm going to keep going until we're ready for a break and me to look at some other things here. So I think we can move on to. It looks like we're going to go into step 13. Add a class attribute with a value of round to the 3 image elements. Okay, so that's going to be in the lessons.html file. So I think we are actually at a break spot, and I'm going to make sure that we're heading in the right direction with those steps. So I'll be right back. Okay, let's continue on with number 13, where we're going to add a class attribute to our 3 image elements. Now, I only have 1 image element. You guys are going to have 3 in your Strike Accord website. Now, just as a review, what I added is just the 1 behavior lesson with a border collie here. So I'm only going to make the modification to 1 area. You guys will do it for all 3. And what we want is we want rounded edges for this image right here. And to do that, we're going to add the class attribute to the image element itself. And when we go into lessons.htm, which is what I'm looking at right now, and we look at the image source, that's the border collie that is drawn when you run this web page right here. We'll see here we got image source equals. What we're going to do is we're going to add a class attribute, and we can do it just right over here, but we're going to say class equals. So we're going to go over here to the end, and we're going to say class equals, and then what we'll do is we'll say round. So that's going to be added and embedded right into the image element itself. Just like we have class up here, and we have the image tag with its alt, its source, and then now we are added its class that is round. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the CSS file, and we're going to create a new style rule, and it says to do it underneath the info UL right here. And what we're going to do is add the dot selector with the keyword round. And inside of that selection, and we're on number 14 right now, we're going to specify a border radius of 8 pixels. So even though, I mean, the border being hard-coded as 8px is okay. So we're going to set border radius, and you know what, let's just Google that. And let's just do a CSS border radius and look at some examples. It looks like we just need to grab that. So let's go back into our CSS, put border radius, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it's going to be 8px. Okay. And we're going to save it. Let's go to lessons. And it looks like div ID behavior here. Since this is in lessons, you're going to have like piano, guitar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to styles, and I'm going to put behavior here. This is going to be, because you're going to have piano, guitar lessons, violin lessons, I've got behavior lessons. I'm going to leave the other ones because that doesn't really matter. But because I modified my lessons for border collies, and I've got the div ID for that image, and that was back on step 11, where we removed the width and float declarations for piano, guitar, and violin. I just hadn't added my div ID of behavior, and you're going to have this div for your images that you're going to be putting your class round inside of. So I updated my styles.css to have that behavior part of it. And I've just taken out the violin portion of it. And so now we know whenever we get some instructions for lessons, my border collies are only going to have behavior lessons. I could, and I might, just as an aside, add, when we get to the end of this video, we might add a frisbee lesson, and then go from there, so that we can have some continuity. I'll update that as we progress, but it's updated now. So we have just completed step 15, adding a border radius to our lessons. I don't really see it showing up, so let's go ahead and continue on. I think we might need to set a specific border color to it or something like that. You guys might have some different behaviors as you progress from what you got going on. But we got the behavior spelled correctly here. I go to styles. I got behavior, IO. We have the class, image class. The only thing I can think of is setting an image class. So we can do a Google search to make sure that we're setting that right. We can do image class CSS. So you see how we got the source, and then we're embedding the class. So when we look at the class round, and we set it here .round, we're setting the border radius to 8 pixels. I imagine that we need to set the border color specifically to be able to see it, and that you guys can play with. So we're now on to step 15, and we're going to go into the contact HTML file and remove some text within the main dev element. And it looks like we're going to remove the text phone number from the first paragraph element within the main div element, and wrap the phone number within an anchor element that links to the phone number. And then we're going to have a class attribute tel-link. So this is where you set the colors for a link, for the different types of links that you would have. So let's go ahead and get into contact.html. And we're looking at, let's see, our phone number, which is right here. And it says to remove this from the first paragraph of the main div element. And then we're going to wrap the phone number within an anchor element that links to the phone number. So we're going to add an anchor element. Wrap the phone number within an anchor element that links to the phone number. Oh, okay. So let's look at an anchor element. In HTML, let's just type in anchor element. So we're going to put in a hypertext, a link element to the telephone. What this does is, this is part of some mobile development. And what it does is it allows you to be able to click on the telephone number from your mobile phone that's looking at the web page, and it'll bring up the number already typed in on the phone. It's really kind of a slick way of doing things. So what we'll do here is we're going to actually take advantage of this, and let's go ahead and just do it kind of in a couple steps. Let's anchor the phone number within a link. So we're going to use the href phone just like that. But we're going to assign it a class attribute, tel-link. Okay. So we're going to do that to the parent paragraph element that contains the phone number link. All right. So we are going to embed this in to here, and it's going to be inside of the parent element, and we're going to have phone number here, and let's just put it all out, this text all together we're going to put in place of what's going to show up in the link. And then we're going to put the phone number in, and it's going to be 509-555-9228. Now, your book might have a different way of showing to do that. And let's just double check. Yeah. So no, they're using kind of the same mechanism. So that looks appropriate. I'm on page like 250 right now. And then we are going to embed the class tel link inside of it. So this looks good. But here in the parent, we're going to say class tel dash link. And then, of course, we're going to need to add that inside of the style sheet. So let's get back to that page. Looks like we're going to do the email link first, and then we're going to go into your style.css to do the telephone link. So we just finished with step 15. So let's go ahead and save that. And now let's look at step 16. In the contact.html file, we're going to add a class attribute with the value email-link to the anchor element. So let's go to contact. That's contact us. I'm in the contact. And we have the email link right here. And we're going to add a class attribute to the anchor element. So we're going to go here and we're going to say class email-link. Do we got to do equals? I think we got to do class equals. Pretty sure. Yeah, class equals. So I made a little typo here. So we got to go up here, class equals, class equals. Okay. File, save all. And then let's make sure that we did that over here. Yeah, class equals round for that last step. Okay, and then we have our next step, because we just finished with, let's get back to there. This was step 16. So in the styles.css, this is where we're going to add the following style rules. Okay, so we're going to add some class rules to styles.css. So let's go down to here, and we're going to add our class selector. And this is going to be tell link. And we're going to open it. And we're going to have background color. Pound 373684. Okay. Then we're going to have padding. And it's going to be 2%, which is exactly what we want. We don't want PX in there. Margin is going to be 0. And then we're going to want that auto. That's all responsive behaviors. Width, we're going to want 80%. Again, no PX. %. Text align, we want that to be in the center. And this is why Visual Studio Code is nice, because you've got all this autofill stuff that you can install as additions. Border radius is 5 pixels, that's fine. You know, because the border doesn't really need to change size, it's just an area around it. So that's okay to be hard coded. Now we're going to do tell link. And we're going to say a telephone link with the A anchor attribute is going to have these specific colors. White. It's going to have no text decoration. And the font size is going to be specifically resizable at a 1.5 EM. And then we're going to have the display blocked. Oh, display block meaning show it across the whole screen. All right. That is step 17. Save it. And then we want to change the contact selector so that contact, we want to actually change it to contact and then dot email dash link. And that should be, see the div ID contact here? So what it's doing is it's changing the email links class inside of a contact element. And this is the email links class inside of that contact element. Okay, so .email link is added to that. So let's save that. Okay, and then we're going to go to the map style rule and add the value of 95% and the height property of 50%. So this is going to be width 95%, and then the height property. So this is for the map that we have in that one page, and that's going to be 50%. Okay, that's step 19. Okay. I think other than validation of it, which you guys can do on your own, I think we now have a completely, it's mobile completely now. This is all the mobile example of it. So, you know, we've got this now. I don't like this color. I'm going to change that. But this is an example. Now here's the issue that I'm seeing right now, is that I'm not viewing this this website currently in the mobile setting, meaning that I'm not running it. I'm running it for the desktop mode. It's not switching back and forth between the different modes. So right now it's hard coded to work within just the mobile. That's it. There's nothing to make it go back and forth between the normal modes that we would have if we were to open this predominantly from a desktop site. In other words, it's defaulted to a mobile site right now as it sits. It's not built to switch between mobile to desktop. Right now, it's straight up just mobile. That's all it is. We have not added anything to it so like this should only go to mobile if I go to the mobile viewer. And then as soon as I toggle off the mobile viewer to the regular view, it should come back with my pause up here, my images, and this should no longer be in column view or anything like that. But that's okay, because that's going in line with exactly what this chapter is trying to show us, is that we first developed this as a mobile view website. Then we will modify it so that it can be viewed from the desktop. So that is going to be, and if you move forward to chapter 6, it says responsive design for tablets and desktop devices. So right now our website is only set up to view on a phone in its default setting. We don't have it anymore able to view on the desktop appropriately. So this is all now modified just to work with, and you see how it kind of all behaves like we wanted it to behave, where it's all just one column instead of having a left side or right side, etc. So it's all intended as we want. And then now chapter 6 is going to be about putting it into tablet, desktop mode tablet and desktop mode, and that's where we're going to be headed. Now, I know the only difference that I have between what we did today and what you guys have is this lessons page where you have more than one, you have 3 images with different lessons. That's fine. I can add some other lessons here so that we can kind of keep copacetic with what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Right now, I'm just going to add one, and it's going to be a Frisbee lesson to the Frisbee. You know, let's go ahead and do this Border Collie Frisbee. And let's go to images, and let's snag, ooh, that one looks kind of cool. That's a crazy nutty Border Collie. Let's copy that image, and let's go ahead, and I'm going to bring up paint.net to paste it in, and so I can save it. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's go here to image or edit, paste into new image, and so that way it keeps the size. And then I'll just do this, file, save as. And I'll go into my website, images, and it's going to be, it's not going to be, oh, it looks like we're mixing up JPEGs with PNGs. It's going to be Frisbee. I'm going to just call this one Frisbee. Okay. And I'm going to say okay. Then let's just go ahead and do the other one, since the other one has three lessons, so that we're kind of following along the same. Another lesson that we can have is a Border Collie agility. So let's go ahead and look at this. Let's just grab this one, copy. Oh, we can just do a save image as. That'll work. That way we don't have to open it up. And let's just call this one agility. And let's throw this one in my website as well, inside of images. So we've got, it looks like I might need to put that other one somewhere different. That agility one. I think that one went in the wrong spot. Let's go ahead and do this. File, save as again. And no, I think we should be fine if we look at it. Let's look at the website structure. Let's go to images. So we got agility and Frisbee. Okay, so let's go ahead and pan out that and just go into lessons. And let's take this div ID, and we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste it. And we're going to say here that it's going to be agility. And then it's going to be agility, Border Collie, and then we're going to have our image. We're going to give some, let's look at the agility image and make sure that we're describing it appropriately. The agility image is Border Collie, black and white Border Collie, moving through, black and white Border Collie moving around post obstacles. Okay, and I probably spelled obstacles incorrectly. That's fine. And then we offer agility lessons for all beginning at age, let's say 2. We have been training dogs in agility for many years. Okay, so let's just keep it simple because we're just kind of adding this. And then we have our agility image there. And this is going to be agility lessons. And then we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it. And this is going to be Frisbee. Frisbee. Border Collie. And this is going to be catching a Frisbee. And then whether you are a beginner, we have been playing Frisbee with dogs for years. Okay, that's good enough for now, just to give us something. We got Frisbee lessons, and this is going to be Frisbee, and then we're going to save this. And we're going to have to change one of these images. I think one of them is a PNG or a ping. Let's go over here to our style. And you guys have piano, guitar, and violin. This is going to be agility and Frisbee. And then we're kind of up to date and following along with everything that we've been doing. Okay, I'm going to do a Control S. Let's go to lessons and just play this. And it looks like both images are not showing up. So I think I just misspelled those incorrectly. Let's look at, we got frisbee.png. So this is frisbee.png. And then let's look at my folder again. Agility. A-G-I-L-I-T-Y. A-G-I-L agility.jpg. Okay. Control S. Now let's run it again. Okay, we've got images now. Okay. All right. Now, are we setting a special width and size for those images? We're just setting the margin at 2% to the left. I don't see anything else as far as the map we're setting for a specific size. Okay, I think we're good. We have now modified our website and got it up to date. It is now set for for just phones, essentially. And I'm going to do a save all. Run, start debugging, web app. No, I don't want to run from there. I want to run from here. There we go. Home. There's our home. There's our lessons. Here's our contact us with our phone. I don't like the color of that phone. So let's go look at that real quick. Let's go to styles, and that's going to be Telelink. Telelink. Background color. Let's make this. Let's make this the font color also white. Oh, wait, no. Something is not, I don't like some of this. Something is not looking good to me on that color for the contact us, for the telephone link. It looks like we have the background color to this dark purple. But the link itself should be white, the color of the font, just like that is. So I think let's go ahead and it looks like our other links, background color, info, action, background color, main, nav, li. Yeah, okay, so this is setting color of the font. Let's go ahead and just do that right here. And let's see if that modifies and makes things a little better. Control S, contact us, run a debug. Once we click on it, that's where it should change the color to the different color. But it looks like that could be using a little bit of some fixing. I may want to actually, it looks like contact, we are modifying, but it looks like the contact link, we're not actually modifying the contact to a specific color. It could be messing up somewhere else. And you know, I think we need to just set the font color. Let's just do that. Let's do a quick search for CSS font color. And then make that little modification. Okay, so you just set the color of it, of the text. So something is causing that text color to be incorrect. And I've got a sneaky suspicion that it's probably this. So let's just take this guy out. Do Control S. And you know what? I think it's time to move on. You guys. Okay, so the background color. So it is the font color that's causing a problem. For some reason, it's not wanting to make that white color happen. Let's go ahead, and I'm okay with it the way it is. I think that's the contact us. That's good enough. We could set the background color and mess around with this more and play with the foreground color. But I think let's just call it good and move along, as it were. But there's something going on here that we would want to modify. For some reason, that particular aspect of it is not working. And I think somewhere in here, it's getting the wrong color, or something is kind of bleeding through within one of these settings that we'd have to head down and kind of root into. But let's not put the time into that. We've gotten it fixed up enough as it is. And we are at the end of our Lab 1, guys. Thanks for your time. I'll go ahead and post the code for this so that you can refer to it as you progress. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I thought I was done, but, we're coming back, and I was talking about an issue and a problem, and I'm gonna probably do a cut here so that you guys come right to this discussion. But the problem I was having is that when we're working within the contact us, and I ran the contact us, based on my style sheet, I should be having a white text. I should be having white text, and the background color should be, the color of the text should be white for the color of the text of the telephone link, and the background color should be the purple here. Now the problem is that the color of the text is not working correctly. So if we run this in the contact us, we'll see that the text is not white like it should be. So to figure out what's going on with this, and this is why I'm extending the video, what we can do is we can go in and look at the elements and figure out what's going on, what's causing this issue. And what we can do is go into more tools, developer tools, and we can choose the element. So we can go in here into the sources, the elements, and choose the element using the source. So the element that we're working with is this guy right here, this telephone link class right here. So if I look at this telephone link code, and I look at the A of it, you'll see that the telelink of A, you see it's crossed out? It's crossed out. So this cross out here indicates that this element is not applying this particular attribute because it is overridden by another closely or closer associated setting, which means that I'm thinking that it's this guy right here, this contact A, is what's changing that and not allowing the color to be a background color for the background color of the text, is because of this attribute right here is overriding the setting the white for our text hyperlink or anchor link. And so since this is struck out, that means that this A of the contact tag, this is taking precedence. So if I go in here to my styles and I look at contact and I see this guy right here, color, and I see that that's causing the problem. Let's get rid of it. And then let's go back to the contact us and hit play again. Hit stop, run and debug. Oh, and it's fixed. Look at that. So when you're using that developer mode and you see that strikeout on when you're examining your elements, and again, you go to more tools, developer tools, and you go to, you click on your console, your elements, you go into where you get in your HTML code, you got that particular element, and you click on that element, it's going to bring up, that particular thing. And I can just go into this div contact and bring it down and go to this telelink element, click on this, and it's going to tell me all the CSS that's relevant for that particular link. And if anything is striked out, then that means that it's using another setting, another CSS setting that's closer in association, because we can say that, hey, within the contact element, when we have an anchor element, apply these, but when we specify if the anchor element has the class tel-link, that's when it builds a clash between one particular setting and another setting. And so this is how you can track down where you have those clashes of your elements cascading style setting, because if you are creating a telephone link anchor inside of a contact element, its a tag is going to clash with this class's a tag right here. And so what I did is I just removed one of the clashes and we got the behavior that I wanted. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and edit the video a little bit. You guys won't see it, of course, but this is like the true end and completion of this portion of fixing kind of where you're setting your CSS. It has, how to go about narrowing down errors and clashing of your tags and your classes and your CSS selectors, essentially. Okay, thank you. Bye.